Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie, and I hope you're all well. I'm sorry I'm on the avatar, but it's Monday. It's been a typical Monday. It's been one of those days. It's been a long day, and there's all sorts of things happened today. And the most important thing that happened today, if you like, was my internet got cut off at around about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Well, you can imagine for somebody who teaches Spanish on the internet for a living and is a YouTuber, having your internet cut off is not exactly the best thing that might happen to you. And the reason I had my internet cut off was because I just forgot to pay the bill. Literally just forgot to pay it. Oh, it's a bit of a long story. And then, of course, I had to wait 3 hours before I could go and pay it. Because I couldn't pay it on the internet then. I had to go to the actual shop and pay it, and the shop didn't open up again till 5 o'clock because shops close here in Spain at lunchtime, close for a couple of hours from 2 till 5 or something like that. Anyway, so the internet went off round about 1. I didn't realise for a little while because it's been acting up anyway. And then I just thought, oh my God, it's been cut off. Oh my God, what date is it? Oh my God, have I paid the bill? Oh no, I haven't. Because I don't do direct debit. It just doesn't work for me. But anyway, that you don't need to know all those details. So we had 3 hours, more or less, maybe 4, no internet. Can you imagine what it was like? Oh my God, it's so dangerous, this internet. It's so dangerous because suddenly you realize that every single thing that you want to do, you can't do. Like even like listening to I know what I'll do. I'll listen to the radio. Nah, can't listen to the radio because you need the internet for that. Because I haven't got a radio. Then I thought, all right, I know what I'll do. I'll play a game like Spider Solitaire or something like that. No, can't do that. So then I was thinking, right, I'll make up some thumbnails or stuff. No, couldn't do that because that was the thing that I was trying to do is everything was internet. Everything that I tried to do was internet. I couldn't watch a video. It was like me and my son, we had to actually speak to each other. It was like, in the end, I sort of enjoyed it in a way because it's like you don't feel pressure to do things. So, like, because you just in the end, by the time you've realised it, you just can't do it. I can't go on the internet. I can't see the news. I can't, do a video or do this or do that. I sort of relaxed into it, but no, my son did it. So it was just like, what time are you going to pay the internet? What time are you going to the shop? It was just driving me mad. But anyway, in the end, obviously, I went and sorted it out, and that was it. And it was instant coming back on. But what a strange feeling, it just made me realise. Because I was saying to my son, we didn't always have internet. And he said, oh, what did you read when you were eating your breakfast? So we used to read the cereal packets. That's what we used to read. Or a book or something. Obviously he's having his breakfast, and as he's having his breakfast, he's scrolling, which I do as well. We're all scrolling all the time. Oh dear. So it was like, well, what did you do before that? And I said, well, we sort of spoke to each other and, did things like that. But anyway, so that was something that happened to me today. And it did sort of made me think how reliant we are on the internet now. I mean, it's not right, really. You should make sure you have some, some alternatives of things. So I did get quite a lot of cleaning done and things like that. And I did get the dogs were happy because I played with them a lot more, those kind of things. But yeah, it made me think, what would we do without the internet? It brings its good things and its bad things, doesn't it? it does feel like you're like it's like a withdrawal, Anyway, so tonight I'm trying to stay awake. I nearly didn't do this stream, and then I thought, oh, I'll do it in the morning because, as you know, I'm a bit more bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the morning. But I thought, no, I'd said that I was going to do a stream. I've got a couple of things that I want to show you, and I thought, no, let's do it. So to try and keep me awake, I'm on the Coke, not the devil's dandruff Coke. I believe that keeps you awake, but I don't know. I've never tried it. I'd be terrified of taking it. But no, I'm on a different sort of Coke. In fact, it's not Coke, it's Pepsi. And what I've realised, because I fancy, I'm trying to have the caffeine to keep me awake, but I didn't fancy coffee. But luckily for me that I like Pepsi, because Pepsi actually is quite cheap compared to Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, oh my God. I could buy a bottle of vodka for what you have to pay for a bottle of Coke these days. And if you want the proper Coke and not like the roller cola, do you know Peter Kay? If you know Peter Kay, like when you buy the cheap Coke at the supermarket, I've done it with my son. It's like, oh, can't we have the Coca-Cola? No, we're having the cheap one. It's only 60 cents. And the Coca-Cola, well, it used to be about €1. It's about €2 now. But the Pepsi's still €1. So luckily for me, I like Pepsi. Pepsi Max, no sugar. So that's what I'm drinking anyway. Try and get the caffeine to keep me awake. Okay, I'm going to say hello to everybody. So these are the two ladies that we're going to be talking about today. This little lady, Madeline Soto, we've been following her case, and still no charges yet. But I've got I've got podcasts for us to listen to, an interview that I think you'll find interesting. While the police get their ducks in the row, as one of my subscribers actually rang the police station, and he was telling us earlier on today when I did a video that he rang the police station, and they did interact with him, and they didn't give him any information, obviously, but they just said that they were, getting everything together, getting all the information together and getting all their ducks in a row. That was the actual expression that they used. So we know that, really. We knew that anyway, but it's nice to hear it confirmed, actually, by a policeman. So we're talking about Madeleine, and then we're going to be talking a little bit about Samantha, which, yes, while I remember, because, all day I haven't lit a candle because I kept forgetting. So I'm going to do that while I remember. I need a candle first. Hang on. I'm going to just get a candle, but I'm still talking to you as I'm going off to get a candle. So, yeah, then we're going to talk about Samantha. Again, no more information. The twunk is still not, still hasn't said where she is. Sorry, I'm just looking for my candle. There we go. I'll bring a couple of candles over just in case. They're only tea lights, these that I've got at the moment. So I'll bring a couple over, and if one goes out, I can light another one. So yeah, the twunk still hasn't said where she is. Unless something comes out today, because it's morning time at the moment in Australia. So unless something sort of happened, they were supposedly narrowing down the search. So we'll see. We've just got to wait and see what comes out. But I've got an interesting podcast for us to listen to. Just a little bit of information. So these two ladies, and Madeleine was a girl. Madeleine was 13 years old, just a child. When you sort of look at these photos, it's hard to imagine that they're not here anymore, isn't it? Well, you know what? I hope You know, if you believe in that kind of thing, maybe in the next world they've sort of maybe Samantha's looking after Madeleine a bit. It was Madeleine, she never had much looking after while she was here. She had a miserable life, really, when you think about it. Well, certainly from 11 years old. And we're going to talk about that anyway. But yeah, there's nothing in the news at the moment as far as I know. I'm going to say hello to everybody. So, hi, Wendy. So she's tired eyes. Get some Pepsi or Coca-Cola or Coke, whatever floats your boat. You know what will happen? This will kick in, this Pepsi, this caffeine. And then I probably won't be able to sleep, but never mind anyway. As they say, plenty of time to sleep once you're dead, isn't there? So sleep is overrated. No, I mean, it is important to get. I don't need a lot of sleep. I just need a good sleep. So I could quite easily have 4 hours sleep. If it's 4 hours, uninterrupted sleep, 4 to 6 hours is enough for me. It must be from living in Spain, because Spanish people don't sleep much. Hi, David. How are you, David? Hi, Kelly. Hope you're still here, or you might have had to start work now. Hi, Amethyst. Hi, Quizzical. Hi, Mello. Hi, Tina. And Quizzical is in Queensland, Australia. I can't do the accent. I shouldn't even try, really. It's just pathetic, really. Hi, Heather. Hi, Karen. Oh, your very own news channel. Yeah. Oh, do you know, literally, if I didn't have to, because for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure most of you do know, this is like so it's not like my day job, if you like. I teach Spanish, that's what I do. But it's like there's always some news on that I want to come on and talk about. I could almost just do a permanent live stream and just keep, because there's all sorts of interesting things going on all the time, all over the world. So, you sort of run out of time. If only there were more hours in the day. Heather, I've said hello to Heather. Hi, Heather. This is where it gets to the point where you're all saying hello to each other, and I get mixed up about who I've said hello to or not. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Rio. Oh, so just want to say, because I had no internet for 3 hours, it might have been 3 or 4, I can't remember exactly. My emails and everything backed up. I like to answer emails, I like to answer comments and things, but it's all got a bit out of control at the moment. So please don't think I'm ignoring you if I haven't replied to you. Hi, Alana. Hi, Maria. Good morning. Yeah, electricity, Charlie. That'll be the next thing. I'm terrible. I'm not. Oh, don't even go there with me and paying bills. They don't call me VickyLastMinute.com for nothing. Hi, Ocean. Ocean's put her fingerprint on the like button. Thank you. She's telling me and David she's done that. Thank you for doing that. And David came up with another one. Put your DNA on the like button. Exactly, Charlie. You miss the internet at first, but do you know what? I think so I said to my son, "No, I think I'm going to go on a retreat and for a weekend or whatever, and just where you don't have to go. You're not allowed internet." And he said, "Oh, well, that's fine. Just make sure the internet's still on here." Hi, Pauline. Yeah, I mean, that's it. The thing is, the internet gives you a lot of. But what did we had miserable weather. We've always had miserable weather. So what did we do before when we had miserable weather? I mean, a lot of my memories from childhood when we used to go away, because we could never afford to go away abroad. So we would go away to Pithelli or somewhere like that. We never went out of the country, so it was normally raining. We'd be in a caravan And we would play this game. Well, I would go swimming, whether it was raining or not. I'd go in the pool at we went to Pontins in Piffel. I was always in the pool because I love swimming. In fact, I still quite like swimming in the rain, as long as it's not freezing cold. And we used to play this game where you put all the cutlery in the middle of the floor, and you had to try and pick things up, like pick a fork out without making a noise. So it was like a homemade version of Kaplunk, really, or something like that. So you'd have all the cutlery in the middle of the floor, and you'd just have to pick things off one by one without making a noise. And if you made a noise, I don't know what happened, but anyway, if you made a noise, I think you had to put it back or whatever. And who ended up with the most cutlery at the end of it was the winner. Thing is, when you didn't have internet, you had to be more inventive, didn't you? You had to be inventive. You do different things. Like, I think now, young people, it's like whatever you ask them or whatever you're talking about, they're straight on the internet to check the answer, or to confirm it or whatever. And people, I think it's made it harder for people to work on their own initiative in one way. But then I suppose you could think there's a lot of things we do now using the internet that, you Google everything, don't you? If you're like, oh, how am I going to fix that? Or how am I going to do that? Oh, Google it, so maybe it makes you more inventive. I don't know. Sorry, I've started rambling. I've got to stop rambling straight away because I'm already tired of roller cola. Yeah. Hi, Mariah. Yeah. Well, do you know what, Mello? Anything's nice with vodka, unfortunately. Oh, is it cold, Heather, where you are? It's not cold here, really. It's not dead water. It's 16 degrees at the moment where I am. Have I said hello to you, Rio? I'm not sure. Hi, Rio. Hi, Jean. I love saying hi, Jean. Well, there's a lot of you here and you're having a good chat. I am getting my way down it. I'm getting down it. Yeah, I've been to Butlins once, Heather. We couldn't afford Butlins. We used to go to Pontins. She's like the poor man's Butlins, isn't it? So, but I have been to Pithelli once, yeah. To Butlins Pithelli I went once, but I was older. I was about 18. I went with my family. Yeah. Hi, Misty. Oh, I think I've actually got down to the end. Right, thank you. Oh, Maggie. Hi, Maggie. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And as always, thank you to all my subscribers. If you want to see, well, you don't know if you're going to like this video yet, if you're new. So you don't know yet if you're going to want to subscribe or not. But if at the end you do like the video and you want to subscribe for more content, please do. And special thank you, as always, to my members, to anyone who supported my channel in any way. Okay, now then, so we're going to start off with talking about Madeleine. And for those of you who don't know, I bet there's not many of you out there who don't know about the case of Madeline Soto. This case, to me, because this poor girl has been murdered. That we know for a fact. Her body's been found. She was murdered. This photo of her was on her 13th birthday, and the very next day after her birthday, she disappeared. She went missing. She supposedly went to school, though it's thought now that she didn't go to school or was dropped off at school. And then her body was found a couple of days later in woodland near her home. And her stepfather, in inverted commas, because her mother and him, they weren't married, but her mother's partner, again, that's a bit of a mystery, you know, because some people are saying they were separated but living together. You know, it's all, we don't know all the details yet. But anyway, he has been arrested, but not for the murder of Madeleine, but for possessing indecent images of a child on his phone, which he accidentally did a factory reset on, obviously thinking that these photos then could not be found. But of course they could be found, so the police immediately arrested him because he had indecent pictures on his telephone of this little girl from 2 years earlier. The pictures were dated from. So from when she was 11, she was I mean, she does look older than 13 there. I expect the life that she's had made her grow up pretty quick, being with him. And we've seen some videos that show really he was grooming her. He was buying her presents. He's like a great big kid himself, a great big man baby who's into Tamagotchi and all these things. He's like a child, you know. He's nearly 40 years old, a year short of 40 years old, and he's, you know, playing these Tamagotchi things that she was doing, and that was how he was getting around her. That's how he was getting around her. Anyway, from when she was 11, he was abusing her, and that has been proven by the photos that are on his telephone. What we don't know is why she ended up unalived, because, you know, in my eyes, unless she suddenly, I think she probably stopped cooperating, because it was her 13th birthday. You know, she's become a teenager. She's probably, you know, finding her voice a bit. Maybe she turned round to him and said, you know, no. And he just lost it, you know, got angry. Maybe she said she was going to go to the police or go to her mum, or maybe she was pregnant. There's all these things that we don't know. But all we do know is she is no longer with us. And he's been arrested, but not yet charged for her murder. Then, of course, there's the thing about her mum. What did her mum know? Because her mum has given conflicting stories, blah, de, blah, de, blah. It's very strange body language from the mother. But she still has not been charged yet either. So there's been no charges laid. So we're going to look a bit at what somebody's saying about the mother. We're going to start off with Closing Arguments, which is a podcast by a guy that we have been looking at, sort of what he's got to say. Oh, sorry. So, yeah, we're going to look at Vinnie Politan from Court TV. He's done a podcast, and we're going to look at that, or listen to that, I should say. And that'll give, any of you who don't know all the details, that'll give you all the details, and also his sort of take on it, which is quite, and he's got some guests on. So it's quite an interesting podcast. Hi, Desi. Just make sure I haven't missed anyone coming in before I go into it. Okay. So let's have a listen to that then. So we're going to start off listening to, let me take this out. We're going to start off listening to this podcast, which will give us a good background for those. I mean, most of us probably that are on here maybe know about this story because if you've been watching my videos, I've been covering it quite a lot. But it's always good to listen to it again, because you do forget things. You know, it's easy to forget things.
There's circumstances.
Go back to the beginning.
Opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
Yeah, everyone's innocent until proven guilty, except for this Stephen Stearns. And the other worrying thing about this guy is he actually worked at Disney World. You know, the thing is that I think it's really brought to light, this case, how child lovers, you know, P's, they gravitate towards jobs that bring them close to children. You know, that's what they do. Obviously they do. You know, and I'm not being funny, but a lot of people wouldn't want to work with children. They're not easy to work with. You know, they can be a joy and they can be a pain. But if you were a person who had those sort of that sort of persuasion, you would gravitate towards any job that brought you close to children. And so he worked as a cast member at Disney, and we've seen the video of that. Even though Disney are denying that he worked there, he did work there. He might have worked for an independent company, I don't know, but he worked at Disney World. Anyway, let's have a listen.
February 25th should have been a great day for Madeline Soto, her 13th birthday, celebrating a new phase in her life, becoming a teenager. There was a party, but her mother, Jen Soto, could not make it. But her mother's live-in boyfriend was there, Stephen Stearns, a man who had been in Madeline's life for at least a couple of years.
Yeah, we don't know all the details about the birthday party properly yet, do we? We know that the mother was not there. She apparently had to work. Now, whether there are, people saying that maybe she worked at Disney as well, or I heard that she worked in a care home. So again, we don't know the full story. That'll come out in the wash, as they say. But one thing that we do know for certain, she was not at the birthday party. So whatever happened, I think something definitely happened at that birthday party. I won't be surprised if after everybody went home, Stefan tried it on with again with Madeleine. You know, he's been enjoying Madeleine for 2 years. And then I just have a feeling that maybe Madeleine turned around, and said, look, no, this is it. I'm not doing this anymore. She's got a bit older now, hasn't she? That's my feeling, but that's only an impression. I mean, could be, some people have speculated that maybe the mother, did something because she found out about it. We literally do not know, but all we do know for 100% certain is that Stephen Stearns was abusing Maddie for at least 2 years before she died.
In fact, Jen referred to him as Madeline's stepfather, even though they were not married. The next day, Jen and Stefan say Stefan gave Madeline a ride to school. They also say Madeline was embarrassed and did not want to get dropped off in front of the school, so she was dropped off at a church parking lot less than half a mile away. That's the last time they say anyone had contact with her. Investigators say the evidence paints a much different picture. They claim they have evidence of Stearns dumping Madeline's laptop and backpack in a dumpster and have images of Madeline dead inside Stearns' car. Madeline never made it to school and was found 4 days later in some brush 17 miles from their home in Kissimmee, Florida. Stearns was arrested after images of Madeline being sexually assaulted were allegedly found on his phone, some dating back to when Madeline was just 11. But at this point, there have been no charges related to her death. Tonight, we take a closer look at the story told by Madeline's mother, then take a look at the recovery scene. What will this autopsy reveal? All this as we investigate the tragic life and death of Madeline Soto.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight. It's just not fair. It's not fair what happened to this little girl. It's beyond outrageous. Tough life. She's being tortured. She was being tortured. The allegations are that this was going on for years, this sexual abuse in this home, and it's not stopping. You know, why didn't it stop? Why didn't someone step in? Why didn't anyone know? A lot of questions tonight, but the bottom line to all of this, she only lived to her 13th birthday.
Yeah, there's so many questions to be asked, but of course it would be going on you know, be going on all over the world. Well, she's not the only one, unfortunately, where, you know, these things, they don't come out until it's too late. That's the problem. But yeah, it's horrible to think that for at least 2 years, I mean, that's when the photos are on his phone, but that doesn't necessarily mean that nothing was going on before that, you know, but maybe that's when he started actually taking it as far as he did. Because I think they'd been together quite a long time. Yeah, it's just awful to think she went through that, and yet on every photo you see of her, she is smiling. How did she keep a smile going? You know, maybe she just thought that was normal. You know, maybe he made her feel, you know, she probably thought when she was very young that she was in love with him, even maybe. And this is literally what I think might have happened then when she got a bit older and started liking boys at school, you know, boys her own age. He wouldn't have liked that at all.
And it's not fair what happened to her. Now, let's talk about Mr. Accidental Factory Reset, Stearns over here. I mean, this is the guy. He's in custody now because of what was on his phone. The phone that he accidentally did a factory reset on the day that this little girl disappeared. Like, come on. Does he really think everyone is that stupid? Like, you can't put 2 and 2 together?
No,
And by the way, how do you accidentally reset your phone? How do you do that? Explain it to me, please. I'd like to understand how that can be done accidentally. But I don't believe in coincidence.
Yeah, you can't do a factory reset accidentally. It's impossible. Believe me, I know. We tried to do one when my son's phone broke, and I had to lend or borrow. I always get mixed up which one. One of my phones, I wanted to put mine down to a factory reset. I just couldn't do it in the end. So it's not, you cannot factory reset accidentally. It is impossible. Well, the police will know that anyway. So just makes me laugh how people, you know, they think they're so clever. And then he thought he could do that. He would have been better setting his phone on fire or throwing it in water or something, dropping it down the toilet, than to pretend that he accidentally did a factory reset. So he didn't know much, did he?
I just don't. Most of the time, they do not bear out. You can put pieces together. In all the cases and the trials we cover on Court TV, all these little circumstances, all these facts, you start putting them together and it leads in one direction. And that's what's happening here. And the question is, what happened? Yeah. What happened to this little girl? Happened? When was she murdered? Where was she murdered? How was she murdered? Those questions have not been answered yet publicly. There's an autopsy. Hopefully that autopsy will reveal a lot of that information.
Yeah, there's been no results of the autopsy yet either, which, really, it's been long enough to have the results of the autopsy. But I'm pretty certain perhaps the police have got the results of the autopsy. And of course, the autopsy will reveal if she's pregnant or not, because that's been some speculation. Because in her dress that she had on for her birthday party, she looked a little bit of a tummy, just a little bit. But you know what? She's sort of 13. I think that's probably a little bit of puppy fat or whatever. But, obviously, if she's already started her periods, she could have been pregnant. It's perfectly possible that she could have been pregnant. And she might have been really happy about it. These are all the different scenarios. She could have been pregnant, she was really happy about it and he wasn't. Or it could have been that he was happy about it and she wasn't. And she's, or it could be that she refused his advances because she's growing up a bit. It could be the mother got really angry. There's so many different scenarios. So until we get all those results of the autopsy, etc.
And when I say information, I mean evidence. Because every piece of information is evidence in this case. Because this just can't happen without someone being held accountable for what happened to Madeline. The other thing that's confusing me tonight is Mom, Madeline's mother. What's her story? What exactly is her story? What is she saying? What has she said? What does it mean? I don't have a clear picture yet. And obviously she's not talking anymore. Investigators are gathering up their evidence and information, so we don't know everything, but we're going to try to learn a lot more tonight. So let's start with what we know right now about Mom's story. And it begins, let's take a look at the arrest affidavit. This is the arrest.
Yeah, I think that was interesting what he said there, because of course her mum and Stefan, Jen she's called, isn't she? Is it Jen or Jan? I always get mixed up. But they were both, making interviews left, right and centre, weren't they? Well, of course, he's been arrested now, so he's not giving any interviews. And she's gone quiet now, and I believe she's under investigation, but we don't know anything officially. It's just what people are saying. But she's certainly not giving any more interviews, where she was being interviewed. She was voluntarily being interviewed, and the police allowed that to happen. I think the police just wanted those. We're going to hear about that. We're going to hear from an ex-police officer soon who was saying what he thinks about the interviews, etc.
Arrest of Mr. Accidental Factory Reset. On February 26, 2024, approximately 2,000 hours, Madeline.
Thank you, Alana. So her name's Jennifer. So it's Jen, not Jan. Yeah, I was getting mixed up.
Soto, 13-year-old, was reported missing by her mother. The mother advised her daughter's stepfather, Stephen Stearns, picked her up from home and dropped her off at Hunters Creek Middle School. The mother then went to pick up Madeline from school at dismissal and learned that Madeline never showed up for school. So that's when she finds out. She goes to pick her up at the end of the day. That's when she finds out her daughter is missing. Stepdad dropped her off at school. Now, we know she's spoken publicly because this began as a missing persons case. And when she spoke with WFTV 9 down in Orlando on March 5th, or actually a report from WFTV on March 5th. This is interesting. Newly obtained documents show that the girl's mother told deputies on February 26th that she saw her daughter getting dressed for school at 8 a.m. on Monday, and Stearns then took her to school. Okay, more statements from Mom there. Now, let's take a listen to a February 27th interview, again by WFTV 9 down in Orlando with Jen Soto. Again, this is her telling her story and the story about what happened here. Let's listen.
We dropped her off at school, close to school. She wanted to walk the rest of the way. She was spotted walking by the church, by the middle school on the cameras. They saw her hang out in the parking lot for a little bit and then get up and leave.
I just think this is bizarre what she said there. Because she said she was spotted by the cameras. Why did she say that? Because obviously, that is, it's one thing to say, oh yeah, we dropped her off at school, but this is part of the problem with the mother, isn't it? That she said at one stage, we dropped her off at school. Then she said, I dropped her off at school. Then she said the stepfather dropped her off at school. But for me, the most bizarre lie that she gives is this thing about, oh yeah, she was seen on the CCTV. That is so easily proven. Why would you? Nobody can be that thick, surely. To say that she's been seen on CCTV when patently she has not been seen on CCTV, because dropped off at the school, because she was dead in the car before, she was never dropped off at school. So why is she saying that? Did he tell her that? You know, I still keep trying to give her a little bit the benefit of the doubt, but the more it goes into this case, the more you see that you can't give her the benefit of the doubt, really.
They didn't see a vehicle or anything else. They just saw her walk away around 9 a.m. heading towards the school, but she never made it.
What was the last thing, I guess, the conversation that you two had, you and your daughter?
We spoke about her birthday party. She had a birthday party on Sunday. She had a great time. I couldn't make it because I was working, but she had an amazing time. She was so happy with all her gifts. I told her good night, and yeah, that was it. I was the one who took her to school in the morning. That was my partner. But yeah, in my heart, I feel like somebody took her. This isn't like her to just pick up and run away, or just not go to school. I don't know what to think. She was last seen wearing a green.
Yeah, she can't, you know, when she starts talking in the next interview that we're going to look at with this policeman, ex-policeman, he mentions that as well, because when she starts talking and then she starts saying something, then she sort of finishes off. She doesn't know how to finish off what she's saying because she's trying to think in her head. Oh, what have I said before? What have I said before? You know, she's trying to remember what she said before. That's what happens when you tell lies.
Hoodie, black shorts, white Crocs, a black JanSport backpack with gray hibiscus flowers on it. She got dropped off in the morning. We did not notice until after school pickup at 4 o'clock when I went to go pick her up, and she wasn't at school.
All right, when you put all this stuff together, I'm hearing some clear contradictions, some holes in the story, and some ambiguities. I want to take some time tonight to try to clear things up as best we can at this point of this investigation.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
On the ground, down to Orlando, to some folks who are working this story. Joining me in Orlando, Florida, WFTV investigative reporter Shannon Butler. Shannon, great to see you tonight.
Good to see you, Vinny.
Also with us, editor of the Osceola News Gazette, Ken Jackson, also working this story. Thank you so much, Ken, for joining us. All right, let me start here. Shannon, from your perspective, how clear is it about this birthday party that takes place on Sunday, going to school on Monday, who's in the house, who's not in the house, who's going where? Is there any clarity to what's going on there before this alleged drive to school?
Well, that's the time frame that we're still trying to piece together as we try to look at this timeline of events. We know that the birthday party happened. We know at some point she was in that home. We don't know who was in the home with her at the time because the stories have not been clear. We've talked to Stephen Stearns, we've talked to Jen Soto, and the stories weren't quite clear about what happened then. All we know is they claim that he took her to school, and that's when she had vanished.
Now, Ken, I want to put up the first contradiction that I'm seeing in some of these statements that have been made public. The affidavit states that Jen told deputies her partner, Stephen Stearns, dropped Madeline off at Hunters Creek Middle School on the morning of February 26th. When interviewed by WFTV on February 27th, Jen says Stephen Stearns dropped Madeline off near the school. What about that drive? Was that drive made? Where's he driving that morning? And is there any evidence of him being anywhere near the school that day?
Well, first of all, Vinny, thanks for having me on. If you look closely at that map, first of all, something I want to say about that neighborhood is if you notice right there on Town Loop Boulevard, the church and the school are separated by State Road 417, which is a elevated toll road. So to say that they're really near the school, you can't see the school from the church. So there's that. And then we do have the inconsistency of, in the affidavit, the mention is that Stephen dropped her off. And then we hear from the mom that we dropped her off. So that's something that we're trying to confirm right now. I did speak informally with a member of Kissimmee Police Department on, let's see, today's third, on Tuesday night. And they're now the lead agency in the investigation. I was there for an unrelated event. And I asked about any investigation that's currently going on in the mother. To tell you how tight this investigation is right now, all I was told, and I'm paraphrasing here, was that we have a focused investigation going on in order to present an airtight case to the state attorney's office. That's all the Kissimmee Police Department is saying right now.
And you need that airtight case. I mean, Shannon knows I spent a lot of time down there in Central Florida. Was it more than a decade ago? And we thought that case was airtight. All right, Shannon, here's another contradiction I'm seeing. In her interview with WFTV, Jen says, and this is what Ken just said, we dropped Madeleine off for school. In the same interview, Jen says her partner, Stephen Stearns, dropped Madeleine off for school. What do you make of that contradiction, the we versus like, oh no, he did it?
Well, I think at first when she told that story before we know what we know now, we just thought it was one of those conversations where you have, you and your husband, you're like, oh, we dropped her off at school at 8 o'clock. But then when that affidavit came out and an initial report that says something completely different, about when she last saw her daughter, we started to go back to that interview and listen to it again. She told us twice in that interview that we dropped her off at school. And then she...
Stop it. Sorry about the dogs, because the blooming neighbours are outside all talking, and they've got, one of them's got a Jack Russell and the other's got a dog. So the dogs are barking, so they're making my dogs bark. But I just want to go back to this thing about the autopsy. Yeah, these days, because this quite often you think, oh my God, they've released the body really quickly, or they've buried it, or they've cremated the body, or but at the end of the day, these days, what they do with a body or whatever, I mean, not, I don't like being graphic, but Madeleine would have been found, she was found quickly. So her body would not have been too decomposed, if you see what I'm saying. So what they do these days, they put them in, they scan the bodies, so they have the perfect scan of the body. They don't need to keep the body. They take samples, for their toxicology reports, like take brain samples, they take all sorts of different samples, which they then keep. So they take whatever they need, just in case anything's ever needed along the line. And then they release the body, and they release them very quickly these days. Quite often you think, oh my God, that was quick. But it's because of the technology. So they've got all the information they need before they release the body, which is good, because it means, because it's not very nice to think of it. This is if they've done an autopsy, obviously. If a body has not had an autopsy done on it, they won't have all these details. And then, if a body would have to be exhumed then, if there was anything came up later on. But if there's been an autopsy done, it would never need to be exhumed, because all the details are there. And if there's anything they wanted to go back and check, it should be there with all the, the information that they have. So the actual body is not needed after that. That's what I've seen anyway.
He says, well, I didn't drop her off. My partner dropped her off. That's another thing. She calls him a partner. We've heard it's the stepdad. We've heard it's the boyfriend. Also, that's unclear about that relationship too. So we know she wasn't dropped off near her school or at school, because the video evidence that the deputies have and police now have, that doesn't add up. It was nowhere near the school.
Next contradiction. told WFTV that Madeline was spotted on camera in the church parking lot walking towards the school around 9 a.m. on February 26. And this is what Shannon's saying. Police say video evidence leads them to believe Madeline was already deceased 8:19 a.m. on February 26 when video footage shows Stephen Stern's car at their apartment complex and Madeline's body is visible. Ken, this was the part of that interview that confused me the most because she's referencing something about being on camera at 9 a.m. That's impossible. Do we even know if there is surveillance video?
Yeah, so he's referring now to this. I said that to me is the most bizarre thing, that she said that Madeline was on the CCTV camera at 9 a.m. that morning. It's just impossible. So it was just it's a silly lie. That's what I'm saying. It's like, why lie about that? You know, how does she know anyway? And going back to the cremation thing, Simon was just saying there that they cremated her free of charge. You know that the mother, Jennifer, she has got a GoFundMe set up, hasn't she? There's a GoFundMe at the moment. You know, these GoFundMes. This is another thing that's only happened through internet, I suppose. I mean, I suppose, you know, in days gone by, before internet, I remember actually when my dad died, the people in my community where I lived, they had a whip round. We had whip rounds because obviously I had to fly back to the UK and I couldn't work for the couple of weeks that I had to go back to the UK for. And my little community, you know, they had a whip round and got some money together to pay for my flight, etc., which was really sweet. I suppose that's the old school version of a GoFundMe, isn't it? A whip round. That's what we used to do. We'd have whip rounds for people. Now we have GoFundMes, you know, or something like that. So it's quite, but there is a GoFundMe for Madeleine. If I've got, not tonight, actually, I won't look at it, but I'll look at it maybe tomorrow because I've got a lot of things to show you tonight and otherwise we won't get through it all. But yeah, she's got a GoFundMe going.
At that church?
Well, we know that there is surveillance camera at the church, but we don't have we don't at 9 o'clock. We don't have her on that. Now, something else that we're trying to confirm right now is that we're trying to confirm. Part of the affidavit was that they have it on camera that Stefan dumped some of Madeleine's items, the backpack and the laptop, in a dumpster. What we're trying to confirm now is if they were found in the apartment complex where Stern's address is listed on one of the charging affidavits. Now, that's on the west, about the northwest side of Kissimmee. Unfortunately, it's a gated community, so it's not like we can all just head on in there and look for ourselves. But they have not been able to confirm, and at least we have not been able to confirm that that's the dumpster, but that would have been a full, because I know my daughter's in 9th grade, so she just got out of middle school. So I know middle school goes in around 9 o'clock, a little after 9 o'clock. The timing from the affidavit says that they saw the car about 7:45. It dumped the items in the dumpster, and then at 8:19 they was on camera again with what they think is Madeleine inside the car. They believe that, at least the Orange County investigators believe that she was already dead. So there's a lot of things in here that aren't adding up that we're hoping will come clear once the investigation is revealed.
Yeah, so then what we do know as well is this CCTV of Maddie in the back of the car, and the police said they thought she was dead, deceased in that car. And then the CCTV of that twonk throwing away her belongings into a skip, which luckily the police managed to retrieve. I think it was a little backpack and a computer, you know. So I think he is definitely toast, because he is definitely, you know, I think the problem is her. You know, when the police but they're collecting their evidence. Her inconsistencies in her story it's going to be a question of, did he make her say that, or did she know? You know, that's going to be the question.
Like Kissimmee police.
Another contradiction, Shannon. Ready? Here we go. According to a WFTV report, Jen Soto told deputies she last saw her daughter 8 a.m. on Monday, February 26, getting dressed before school. But she also told you guys in an interview she last spoke to her daughter on Sunday, February 25th. So to me, this is the biggest mystery that I have. Where's mom in the morning? Who's in the house? When could this have happened? Where was the party? What time was the party? Where was mom? Did mom speak to her in person? Did she speak to her on the phone? Any clarity on any of this, Shannon?
Well, we know that her mom said that she was not at the party, and I think folks at that party confirmed that she was not there. She somehow was back in that apartment, and not for the mom to say that she had that long conversation with her about how excited she was about the party, how she liked her gifts. We have video of that birthday party. We know that the little girl did celebrate her birthday, but once she got home, that's the problem that we're having. Did you say goodnight to your daughter as you told us originally, and then So
the birthday party was held outside the home then, I take it? Was it held in a restaurant, like a fast food place? Who was at the birthday party? So obviously we know the mother was not at the birthday party. She was working. But if she was working, then what time did she get home? You know, what time did she come home? Did she come home in the middle of the night, in the early hours of the morning? Did she come home and find them together? You know, all these questions. And who was actually at that birthday party? I mean, apart from the twonk, who else was there? And then who did he then take her home? You know, maybe he either tried it on, she got angry, or maybe they were doing it and the mother turned up. Something happened in the night, didn't it?
someone told you that he took her to school, because then in the affidavit or the incident report, the first responding deputies, when they talked to her, she said she saw her get dressed for school. Then she saw Stephen Stearns drive her then to school around 8:30. But remember that video evidence at 8:19.
Okay, so people in the chat saying it was at her grandma's house. Where is her grandma in all this? Has she been interviewed? Has she spoken? What did she think of it all? You know, these are the things we'd like to find out sooner or later, is what does the grandma think of Stephen Stearns?
Team, according to the sheriff's office, shows that she was likely already deceased. So if she saw her get ready at 8 and then said he took her at 8:30, it's not possible if you look at the evidence that those deputies pulled from the apartment complex. They believe at 7:35, when her backpack was dumped in that dumpster, she was likely dead then. In fact, one of the reports, it says that Stephen Stearns said that he saw her in that parking lot actually open her book bag and was digging for something. And he said, I thought it was her headphones because she was always looking for her headphones. That was the same backpack that detectives say he threw in the dumpster at 7:35 in the morning. There is video at that church parking lot, but they've never said that's actually her. They had some conversation with them early on, and they've held on to that story that she was in that church parking lot. But no one has ever said that was actually her. It was grainy video, but detectives do not believe that was her, seeing as how at 8:19 they believed she was dead.
This is, I know investigators know so much more than we do, right? They're holding back, they're putting together, as you described, that airtight case that is necessary to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt. But this is just, it's not adding up. Like, it's not adding up. What she is saying and what he is saying and what he is doing and the way her story has vacillated a little, something strikes me that is just wrong here. Ken, any indication when they say investigating? Because no one's been charged in the murder, right? No one's been implicated in what happened to this girl in terms of being either, abducted or killed or wherever that happened. Is mom part of the subject of that investigation?
Well, like I said, KPD was pretty tight-lipped when I talked to him on Tuesday, but I have to believe that she is. I mean, she's the only person who is around for this who isn't currently incarcerated. Currently, we still do not have murder charges in the case. We only have the sexual battery and the possession of child pornography charges against Stephen. But like I said, I mined for information on that the other day, and while I wasn't told that per se, I have to believe that she is part of this investigation simply because, like I said, she's not in jail. Stephen is. This is going to be a very interesting investigation when it comes out. I'm gonna tell you that.
All right, Shannon, as we sit here tonight, what's the question on the top of your mind that you want to be able to uncover the answer to? Like, what is the one thing that is really sticking in your head tonight about what happened to Madeline?
What her mother knew before her death in those 2 years where detectives say she was being abused by her boyfriend, what the mom knew then and what the mom knew in those final hours. There's a lot of question there. There's a lot of different stories. I think investigators are still trying to piece together. We're still trying to piece that together. I think until we know that, because remember, there's two separate investigations going on here, what happened before and what happened leading up to it and after. I think that they will look at the mom on both of those things. We still don't know what happened in those final hours or the hours just after Madeline was reported missing. And we don't know what the mom knew, if anything, about the 2 years, maybe even more, that her daughter was allegedly being abused.
And how about you, Ken?
Well, what I want to know is, so the investigation includes that the sexual abuse that was on Stephen's phone occurred in 2022, when the affidavit redacts the name of the victim, but it lists the date of birth and it matches Madeline's. Okay, so if it happened in 2022, number one, she was younger than 12 years old. And can we say for sure that it occurred consistently ever since 2022, so for the last 2 years? And if so, what I want to know is the mom coming from a position of being fearful as well? Like we said, like Shannon said, what did she know and when did she know it? Was she covering for Stephen? I mean, these are things that, as a parent of a 15-year-old myself, I really want us to get to the bottom of.
Absolutely. Well, both of you are doing incredible.
Do you know, it's funny, isn't it? I mean, it must be terrifying. Well, it's terrifying having a teenage boy, never mind a teenage girl, for all sorts of reasons. The teenagers, gosh, you don't realise it when you're a teenager, but all the things that can happen to a teenager, like this sort of thing where some twonk like abusing them, or them getting involved in drugs or drinks, or involved with the wrong drinking or the wrong crowd, or oh my God, it's terrifying. I'll tell you what, I honestly think, when people want to have children, and I thought I was never going to have any children. I was in my 30s before I had a child, and I couldn't, I was overjoyed. But I tell you what, I think if anybody, if you really knew what it was like to have a teenager, and you think it gets better as they get older, it doesn't. It gets worse when they're a teenager, because you've got so many other things to worry. I mean, it never goes away completely. The worry, and I don't think you ever stop worrying. I've got friends who've got children in their 40s, and they're still worrying about them. It's like, oh my God, the problems you worry about them when they're really little, but the problems get worse later on. And of course, the problem of sort of sexual predators That could be for boys or girls. That can be, you just don't know, do you? It's just something else to worry about. Oh my God. Just as soon as you have a child, you never stop worrying. You never have a day's peace for the rest of your life. God, it's like, you're better off with dogs and that. At least you can always control them. Oh, dear me. I'm just thinking about that man saying he's got a teenage daughter or whatever. I think for the police, it must be, whatever case you're covering it, like when it's something that you've got, like, if this is a 13-year-old girl who's been murdered, so obviously if you've got a teenage daughter, you're going to really feel that more than you would feel another case. Or whereas, if it was I don't know, a young man who was stabbed or whatever in a fight, you're going to feel that more. Or if it was like with Samantha and she's a 51-year-old mother, and if you were a young detective, maybe at 22, or a young policeman, you're going to feel that because it will remind you of your mum. So anything that reminds you of any situation in your life must be so difficult to cope with.
Incredible work down there. Shannon Butler with WFTV. You've been gracious enough to let us share that interview that you guys did. It was amazing. Thank you so much, Shannon. Ken Jackson, Osceola News Gazette. Keep digging, and I hope you'll both come back on, because we're going to continue to cover this story.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
We have evidence that shows Stephen Stearns returning to the complex, and Madeleine was visible in that.
Charlie, are you going to wait till, what was it you said? You're going to wait till you're financially responsible and happily married? Oh my God. Well, if you're going to wait for that, you might be waiting a long time. I don't think I'm not either of those things. My son always says to me, you should have waited longer. But, how long do you wait for? You're always waiting for the right time. There's never a right time. But I suppose you could be sensible and plan it out better. But, God, it's weird, isn't it? Because there's so many nice things about having kids. I mean, God, I don't want to make it sound awful, but there are lovely things as well. But this responsibility, and as Wendy was just saying there, sooner then you've got it with your grandkids. I mean, I don't know that yet. I haven't got any grandchildren yet. I'm looking forward to that. I don't know if I'll ever get any. I've been told I have to think of the German Shepherd as my granddaughter, because that's all I'm getting. So, he actually refers to me as G-Ma when he's talking about the German Shepherd. So maybe I'll never get to see grandchildren, or maybe I'll be too old and doddery before I do. But you sort of want, if they're, I suppose, grandchildren, again, it's like children, you want them. There's lovely things about having them, but there's a lot of bad things as well. Apart from the worry, then there's the financial responsibility as well. That never ends either. You think, oh, when they're financially independent, never happens.
That vehicle, we believe she was already dead at that time.
That's a big fact, but has not resulted in any homicide charges. Stephen Stearns in custody based on sex abuse, sex assault charges, not murder, not homicide yet. That investigation is continuing. So I want to take a look at that arrest warrant. It's graphic, absolutely graphic. They looked at the contents of his phone. Several images and videos were located, which depicted an apparent child with her upper private area, lower private area, and back private area as the focal point of pictures and videos. Sick stuff. Pictures of videos depicting an apparent child's private parts and mouth being assaulted by male genitalia. This warrant charges that they occurred August 20 of 22, when the victim was just 11 years old. So what's going on? How is she handling this? How does a child like this deal with this? Let me bring in my guest in St. Louis, Missouri. Licensed mental health and nationally certified clinician specializing in trauma, child abuse, and neglect. Sharonda Brown, and psychotherapist, CEO of Life Counseling Solutions in Orlando, Florida. Dr. Janie Lacey is with us as well. Thank you both for being here. Sharonda Brown, I'll begin with you. What is this child going through? I mean, at a minimum, it begins at age 11.
I'm sure there was a lot of fear and anxiety, confusion at first, probably afraid for her life. And after a certain while, she becomes accustomed to it and very much used to it, very much like grooming. And if that's gone on for a couple of years, especially if the environment was agreeing, meaning if her mom knew about it and didn't do anything about it, she probably began to think that this was a way of life, but still felt very, very uncomfortable. I can imagine that as she got older, she started probably to defend herself or speak up more for herself, but we don't know that for sure. But I'm sure she started out very anxious and after a while became very used to the culture of the abuse.
Dr. Janie Lacey, they live in a house, 1,400 square feet, 2 levels. It's a nice townhome. It's not a sprawling mansion, though. The 3 of them, apparently, we know were living there. And this abuse begins allegedly in 2022 inside that house, based upon what investigators are telling us. What are your thoughts about mom and daughter, their relationship as this is allegedly going on? And would an 11-year-old tell her mom?
Well, it depends on the circumstances, Vinny. You know, depending on that relationship that she had with her mom, if it was truly built on trust and connection and love and protection and guidance, the way that us as moms should be with our children. With the absence of those things, children learn how to survive. And even the very people that should be protecting them could be the very source of danger in many certain ways. So children learn to survive. They learn to hide. They learn to split. They learn to almost compartmentalize. They learn strategies in order to deal with their circumstances. And when we look at a mother potentially who could have been a part of or known the sexual abuse of their child, herself probably had a lot of different psychological traumas and emotions that her over attachment to potentially to her boyfriend partner, right, could be based in her fear. And sometimes when we look at mothers who knew or suspected of sexual abuse of their potential child, you know, we're also looking at those denial factors. Was there dependence on this man where she almost discarded her daughter for the connection or the perceived false love of it? There's many different factors when we look at cases where a mother in particular may have known or was in denial of her child's sexual abuse.
Sharonda, I don't know if they were taking her to the doctor regularly. I know she was going to school. Are you surprised, or what is it that prevents a child from speaking out to someone, like a doctor, like a teacher, a counselor at school, or someone else about what's happening?
Most of the time it's shame or just the idea that no one's going to do anything about it. And other times it's just, you know, not thinking, hey, this is abnormal. Because if she's used to it, then she's like, okay, it's been going on for a couple of years now. Who am I going to talk to? Who's going to even believe me?
Yeah, the thing is, I think it's that she is really good, this woman, and what she's saying, I think if you just, you know, these children, they don't know that what's happening to them is is just not normal, because it doesn't happen overnight. He groomed her, didn't he? He was buying her presents. You know, he's oh God, he'll have built up to it. Won't have. She was only 11 when it started, because David, as you were saying about, apparently this is the date stamps on the photos on his phone. That's how they know that it's gone back 2 years. She would have just thought that was normal, do you know, because he would have told her, I'm sure he would have told her he loves her. This is what happens when you're in love. You know, yeah, of course. He would have told her a right load of shite, wouldn't he? And so it's only when she's got older, this is, and she also said, didn't she, this woman, and I think she's spot on with what she says, as she gets older and she realizes, you know, she starts liking boys her own age, and she starts realizing that, oh, hang on, no, this doesn't happen to everybody. It doesn't happen in every family. It's not normal. you know, sometimes you don't realize things about your family until a lot later on, when you suddenly think, oh, all that you thought was normal actually wasn't normal. You know, so I think this poor girl, she went through a lot, but she probably didn't even realize she was going through something. Because to be fair, he probably wasn't, you know, maybe violent towards her, but, you know, child lovers, they're often not violent. They're not violent. They're loving. They're caring. They show them a lot of attention. They buy them presents. They, you know, to them, they're in like this loving relationship. So sometimes the child doesn't realize it's not like maybe the sort of violent abuse that you might think of. I'm sure that's what he did to her. And it's only later on, I think, or it seems logical to me, let's put it that way, that later on, as she got older, she suddenly maybe started resisting a little bit. She probably didn't resist when she was 11 because she didn't know to, you know, she didn't know to resist. And he'll have told her, this is our secret, you mustn't tell your mum, because if you tell your mum, you know, she'll get angry with you. That's the sort of thing they say. You know, I can't say anymore, but that's the sort of thing that they say. It'll be like, you can't tell your mum because your mum will, you know, she'll be angry with you then, or we'll split up and it'll all be your fault. They put the guilt on the child.
Is my mom going to do anything about it? And let's just say that her mom found out and there were consequences in that household for her speaking up. She's probably going to project that reaction onto all the other officials, and that includes teachers, principals, health administrators. So it just depends on what the reaction she got when she first spoke up, if it ever came out.
And I don't know if we'll ever find out because she was murdered. Sharonda Brown, Dr. Janie Lacey, appreciate your time and your insight tonight. Thank you so much.
There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much.
So I wanted us to listen to that podcast. I thought it was interesting. We've been following him talking about this case. Now, what we're going to look at now is, this is a video that somebody sent me. One of my members sent me, thank you so much. I think they're out there somewhere. Thank you so much for sending me this video, because I probably wouldn't have found it otherwise, and it's very interesting. And this is another YouTube channel. Now, he says in his descriptions he doesn't mind videos being used as fair use. So I'm going to use this video. We're going to listen to the video from the beginning. And it was a Florida police officer called into his YouTube channel and gives his opinion on this case. So let's have a listen to this. It's very, very interesting. Oh, sorry. I just need to tell you who he is first. So this is T-Rev. Go along, give him a subscribe. I'll give him a mention in the description box. It's a very interesting interview from this Florida policeman.
Is that really going to stop that?
Oh, hang on.
I don't know. 843, you're on with me. Talk to me.
Hey, my brother, this is Rome from New York. How you been, brother?
What is going on, Rome? I'm glad to have you on.
Hey, so I'm like the 15% of your male audience, so.
Yeah, we like that, man.
I know.
Appreciate you,
hey,
brother.
just 3 quick things just to clarify for people that either might be confused or haven't heard a little bit. And then I wanted to get see if you wanted a little bit of law enforcement perspective. But the noise in the beginning of the interview with Jen that sounded like the parrot. For anyone that didn't hear or understand it, from what we understand, it sounds to be the automatic pet.
Oh, this was interesting, because do you remember when we watched that interview and there was all that noise in the beginning of it? And some people thought it was a parrot. I didn't know what it was, to be honest, but people said they thought it sounded like a parrot. But it turns out it was the like time to feed the dog alarm or something. Let's hear what he has to say, this policeman.
Spencer for like a dog. And we know that because she knew when it was going to be done and complete. So she said, okay, that should be it. So it's sort of like an alarm or a timer for feeding your pet. So just to get that out of the way for anyone that didn't understand or was confused. The second, and I've been making some notes here while I'm listening to you. The second thing I have here is, you know how Disney's denying that he worked for Disney?
Yes, sir.
There's chatter that he worked for Epcot. So they might be able to say, well, it's not Disney, it's Epcot. So just so people, maybe get that out of their mind, that it might be Epcot versus Disney. And then a little while ago, you posted the picture of what looks like the mom's vehicle, the white vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't.
Yeah. So sorry, just go. So what he was saying is he worked in Disney, but did he work for this Epcot or whatever? So Disney is saying that he's never worked for them, but he worked there. And my point was not that he worked at Disney. And though having said that, I do feel that when you're any business that you've got where there's children, surely there needs to be some real, before you let anyone through those gates to work there, shouldn't there be some sort of check, or very stringent checks? Though then other people say, well, he didn't have any. Well, he did actually. He did have. No, he did. No, he didn't have any actual convictions, did he? Because that thing that he did, where he looked at his friend's girlfriend, set up those cameras for his friend's girlfriend coming out of the shower. Stephen Stearns did. The mother paid them off, didn't she? And that never actually came to a criminal case. So yeah, so I suppose you've got to think that even if Disney would have checked him out, nothing would have come up maybe on his in his background. So anyway, yeah.
Didn't really dig into it too much, and I think some of your listeners might want a little bit of clarity to what you were posting about the white vehicle being parked at what's said to be her sister's house. So remember, Stefan, I guess that's how we say it, Stefan or Stephen, but Stefan was driving his silver vehicle the morning that he hit the body. Mm-hmm. And this white vehicle is Jen's car. And you'll see that it looks like evidence tape across the doors. They would have sealed that. Yeah, so they would have sealed that to be sure that.
Yeah, so this is interesting. So the car that's got these evidence tape across the car, I don't know where they've got that video from, but this is Jen's car, apparently.
Until it was completely searched and evidence was collected, that nobody would have entered that car. So before it would have been released to her, they would have put the tape on it after they went through it. And then when they released it to her, they would say, okay, here's your vehicle back. You can use it. And then she would have been able to open the doors to break the seal.
I'm going to clarify the car for just real quick as far as what I was sent and only what it said. So this is all I know about this vehicle, which is Jen Soto's allegedly. Supposedly, this is the mother's. This was emailed to me. Supposedly, this is the mother's car parked at her sister's house. Dumbass still has red tape on it.
Right.
That was all that.
Yeah, it does seem a bit strange that she's left the red tape on there. So obviously they've done whatever forensic tests they needed to do on that car, and they've released the car to her, which of course it mystifies all of us because we don't understand why she's not in custody, do we? But anyway, she's not, and they've released the car to her. So, and she's driving it around with still the red tape on it.
That email said.
Yeah. So what the chatter is that, for whatever reason, and we could speculate about why her car would have needed to have been searched. Okay, there's all, we could speculate about all the trafficking or other issues that could be out there for her vehicle. But at some point during the investigation, they felt that they needed to search her vehicle. So that's why the evidence tape would have been placed over the doors to make sure that nobody would have entered that car until it was released back to the registered owner. Follow?
Yes, sir.
So, yep. So I don't know if that vehicle was searched where it's currently located, because I don't know who's taking these pictures, who might be following these people around. You know, there could be PI, there could be, news agencies. There could be a lot of people that are trying to be the sleuths and trying to figure things out. So depending on where that vehicle had been over the last, let's say, week, all right, the crime scene investigators would have searched that vehicle, taken fingerprints, collected hairs, or whatever they were looking for in regards to that vehicle. So I don't know a whole lot about the who, what, and where of that situation, but just to help your listeners with why you were posting what you were posting, and to clarify that that wasn't his vehicle that was used the day, that Madeleine was, deceased. So somehow they believe that that car could be involved in this crime or in another, for other reasons.
So what's the red tape for? A lot of people want to know what the
So like I said, that's to seal the door so that to make sure no one can go in there. It's basically like at the crime scene, you see the yellow crime scene tape. So basically it's saying this vehicle needs to be searched. So they would have put the evidence sticker across the doors to make sure that they could see when the seal was broken. So until that vehicle was released to the registered owner, nobody should have been entering that vehicle to preserve evidence. Understood? Is that cool?
Yeah, that's.
Now, sorry, I'm just breaking into that because I want to show you the GoFundMe. Somebody mentioned the GoFundMe. I want to show you the GoFundMe it says it's for Madeline Soto, but obviously it's not for Madeleine because Madeleine is deceased. This is the GoFundMe, Maddie Soto funeral and family expenses. And $16,627 has been raised. Oh, the organizer has disabled new donations to this fundraiser at the moment. So this was organized by Stephanie Soto, which I presume is the sister. Is that the sister of Jennifer? And you can see quite a few people have donated. I mean, $16,000 is a lot of money. And it's for the funeral and family expenses. Well, apparently the funeral company did not charge for the cremation. And what are the family expenses exactly, I wonder? But anyway, very strange. Awful, I think. These GoFundMes, we saw it in the Nicola Bulley case, the first GoFundMe that was organised by a friend, maybe with good intentions, was for the goal was £100,000. What did this was in the first few days of the Nicola Bulley investigation. What was £100,000 needed for? They didn't even know what had happened to Nicola. What was it for? The police were searching for her, when SGI came in, they donated their services free of charge. What did they need £100,000 for? What made them think that they would need £100,000? So I'm quite suspicious of these GoFundMes if there's not right. So the statement they've made is, thank you to everyone for the overwhelming amount of support and generosity. We have reached the goal and I have paused donations for the time being. There was a funeral home that graciously offered to cover the cost of Maddie's funeral. However, my family and I already made arrangements when the offer was made. So what is she saying, that they ended up paying for it? On March the 6th, 2024, our precious Maddie was laid to rest in a private service, surrounded by family and close friends. Again, thank you everyone for your support. Right. So this is the original statement was, hello, my name is Stephanie and I am the aunt of Maddie Soto. Our family has been struck with the most horrible tragedy and our sweet Maddie was taken from us. God, when did she write this? Was this before Stefan was arrested? Maddie was the sweetest angel and brought so much joy to everyone around her. She was kind, loving, silly, and very funny. She had the most beautiful long blonde hair, bright blue eyes, and a radiant smile. She loved arts and crafts, painting, video games, and all of her pets. She was growing up to be the most confident young lady. The loss of Maddie has been completely devastating for our family, and we're reaching out to our friends, family and community to ask for support during this incredibly difficult time. We understand times are tough for many, and any support you can provide is greatly appreciated. The community support we have received thus far has been nothing short of amazing. The funds will be used for Maddie's funeral arrangements and to support our family. So, whatever. Sorry, don't like this at all. Just don't like it. What was the goal then? So $16,000 has been raised, but I don't know what the original goal was. Is there am I missing something? Donation protected. Oh, GoFundMe giving guarantee. We guarantee you a full refund in the rare case something isn't right. And donations of any amount are covered for 1 full year after you donate. I don't like these GoFundMes. You know, these people that have donated with good hearts, you know, with good, pure hearts to donate because they see this girl and they want to, you know, they want to do something positive and do something to help. But then it seems like it's likely to turn out that, you know, maybe the mother was even involved. Awful, really, isn't it? It is awful. Right, let's go back to where we were. We're going back now to the video.
Okay. Now, if I could just bring up the interview, we would have to listen to it again, but I don't recall if it was Jen or Stefan that said we, and paraphrasing, we organized this interview, or if the TV station organized the interview. And that would be critical, and I'll tell you why. So did Soto and Jen and Stefan, did they say, hey, our daughter's missing, let's get the news involved so we can get the word out? Or did the news show up and say, hey, would you guys like to do an interview? And that's not 100% clear, but I'll tell you why it's important and critical. I believe, based on my training and experience, I believe that the sheriff's office sent the news to the home to do a casual, comfortable sort of interview so that they could observe. Okay, they could listen and observe to people who were potential suspects at that time. Now, of course, you're not going to say you're a suspect because they want to see what's going on. They want to watch you and listen to you. So these two people, Stefan and Jen, didn't even realize that they were potentially suspects at the time. The news station was sent to get an interview so that the police could continue their investigation and use that to look at the body, mannerisms and the statements. Does that sound pretty clear?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, in the interview, you'll see that the interviewer said, now I know you had conversations with detectives, and then he kind of caught himself and realized, I don't want to tip them off and make them uncomfortable. He said, but I don't know what, paraphrasing, I don't know what they said. I don't know what that was about. But in essence, he said, I know you had interviews with detectives. So that's what also leads me to believe that the news crews were sent to get as much information comfortably as possible so that they knew that they weren't in custody and it was a casual interview, not realizing that the interview could be used as evidence as well. Now, I am not a body mannerisms expert. The body, the panel was... yeah, I was prior law enforcement.
Okay, so we do have prior law enforcement on the phone. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you mind? I mean, what state?
I was NYPD in Florida for about 7 years. 7 years total.
Okay, so you were.
So I'm not an
Florida.
expert, but I've seen enough. Yeah,
you know law in Florida. Okay.
I do know both. Correct.
Let me ask you a question then, since you were law enforcement in Florida before. Do you think that mom is a prime suspect or a person of interest at all in this case?
I certainly believe she is a person of interest. That's certainly clear. My personal opinion would be that she has information. I would be speculating to say that I think that she could be involved somehow. But I personally believe that she has information on what happened, and based on your prior shows as to why, all her inconsistent statements, her body movements, all that stuff that's already been made clear to your listeners.
Yes, sir.
But in that interview, and again, I'm not an expert in this at all, but when people say, and they're giving you a sentence, right? They're giving you a sentence, they're answering a question, and like she did, at the very end, she'll say, so yeah, or and yeah, or but yeah. Those are critical. Why? Because you're about to continue saying something. You're about to continue along a certain set of facts. When you say so, usually you answer something. You say, so that's why I went there, or and this is what happened, or but I didn't realize. Okay, that's how you would sort of finish the sentence. But when you say so, yeah, and that's it, or and.
Yeah, and I think he's absolutely right here. And I did watch the body language experts talking about these interviews. I've sort of gone off them a lot because of, what they said about the McCanns. I don't agree with them. And there's other cases that I've watched and I don't agree with them. But then I can't, you can't agree with everything that they say. And, I suppose they've got a lot of knowledge. They know what they're talking about. But he's right what he's saying here. They did not bring up this. And, I noticed this. You could just see she starts talking about something. And then it's like, oh yeah, so when I saw her the night before, and then, yeah, right. Because you just know she's suddenly thinking, oh my God, what did I say before? When did I say I last saw her? Did I say I saw her the night before? Or you can tell she's lost track of what she said because she's lying. And they didn't pick that up, the body language experts, but this guy is picking it up, and I think he's completely right what he's saying.
Yeah, or but yeah, it's like you're knowing that there's more information, but you're stopping yourself from giving that information because you're either getting lost or you're realizing you might reveal something. And as good as that panel is of those four guys were outstanding. I was surprised that they didn't hit on that one sentence, because to me that is critical. When you start a sentence, say but, and you just end it quickly with yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
All right. And then in the interview, they brought up the arguments. They said, what was your last conversation with her? And I think that's a critical section of the interview again, is what was your last conversation? And she was thinking for a second, and then she happily and confidently was able to realize, oh, wait, the birthday party, and zoned in on, we spoke about the birthday party, trying to make you believe and make it confident that, oh, we spoke about that. I have some doubts about that section. But in that interview, they talked about what was your sort of arguments. I don't recall. I'd have to watch it again about the arguments. Did you ever have any arguments? And from what I'm reading and the chatter I'm seeing is, I think that the relationship between the mom and the daughter was sort of strained. I think that they did argue more than is said, and she had to sort of keep it as if they don't. And even Stefan.
This is interesting, isn't it? What he said, that, you know, I think we all know from experience, I certainly know from when I was like a teenager, I did argue with my mum a lot. And, you know, unfortunately, you do tend to take, gosh, what is it about teenage girls? You know, you can get this sort of dad complex, you know, and I always took my dad's side over my mum, and don't know why that was. Is it like a primal thing where there's a bit of rivalry there, you know, with your same-sex parent, you know, whereas a boy can clash with his dad more maybe, and a girl can clash with her mum more. And then, of course, if you're a single parent, you're the dad and the mum, so you just get all the shite from your teenager. But just thinking about it, you know, I was like not nice to my mum when I was a teenager. So it could be that they argued a lot. You know, teenagers do argue with their mums. Teenage girls do argue with their mums probably more than their dads. I think that's, you know, what do you all think? I think that's quite likely that they had some clashes going on there. And of course, Stefan, he'll have been there like, I'll buy you a Tamagotchi or whatever, one of those stupid things. You know, he'd be like there in the middle of it all going, oh yeah, you know, oh no, and, you know, just sort of interjecting himself into it and being like the goody sort of thing. And she's arguing with her mum, and he's probably, you know, taking both their sides in private and grooming the girl and keeping the mum happy. And it's awful, isn't it, really? I still do not believe, I do believe that Maddie's mum covered up for Stefan, but I still don't believe she was involved in the actual, you know, unaliving of Madeleine. I just don't believe it. And I think it's just hitting her, probably, everything. And she's just one of those women who was just working too much, not really, you know, so in love with her boyfriend that she couldn't see what he was doing to her daughter. That's my opinion. But she definitely covered up for him. So there's more to those last, you know, to that last day of Madeleine's birthday. There's more to that. And Jennifer definitely knows more about that. But exactly what, I don't know.
On one of the interviews said she's a happy girl. She brings us joy. And when he said she brings us joy, I said to myself, I think he meant she brings us tension. She brings us stress. I think there's a stressful aspect to that. The last two things I'll hit on for you, and I'll let you go, is some people are saying, why did they cremate? And if this is true, we don't know 100% if the body was cremated, but why would they have cremated her body? Again, just remember, about 5 days in Florida, heat, in the woods. Use your imagination. It would not be the right scenario for anything other than a cremation, is my suspicion. The press conference, remember this, the police do not have to come out and speak to the public. You agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Right. Nobody told Chief Mina, who was the Sheriff Mina, he used to be the chief of Orlando, Sheriff Mina, no one said that Sheriff Mina had to come out that day and give a press conference and give up a lot of information. He gave up a lot of information that I'm not usually used to the police doing. And the reason why I say this is police give out only what they want to give out. They don't have to give out everything until the case is more developed or over, really. They don't have to come out and tell the public anything. They give out disinfo. Okay, there's misinfo and there's disinfo. Okay, misinformation is when you misunderstood something, but you repeated it. Disinformation is more of intentional. I'm going to intentionally misinform. That's the difference between misinformation, sort of like a mistake, and then disinformation is more of intentional. So they know more than they're going to tell you. They give you little pieces at a time. But remember, it's not necessarily just for public consumption. It's also for the suspects. It's also for the people of interest. So whatever they're giving you, it's not so that we can hear it and understand and be like, okay, now we get it. It's more that to see what the next move of the suspect or person of interest is going to be. It's like almost like playing chess.
Mm-hmm.
You make a move, I make a move. You make a move, I make a move. And towards the end of the game, you have less moves to make. So the departments are going to give out information that they want to give out to see what the next move of the suspect or people of interest are going to be. Last two things, I know I said that before, but last two things.
No, you're
Kissimmee,
good. You're good.
said,
I like hearing your perspective, man.
Okay.
On point.
All right. Listen, when Sheriff Mina came out and said that we're transferring the case to Kissimmee because, and I forget, we'd have to watch it again, but he said something to the effect of, we believe, I think he said the murder happened in Kissimmee. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of how it was phrased. We'd have to kind of do a timestamp on that and watch Sheriff Mina again. But
exactly.
In essence, he said we're switching it to Kissimmee because we believe the murder happened in Kissimmee. Okay, then why were they involved originally? All right. So originally the 911 call came in from the home location, which I guess would be located within the Orange County area, but some of this happened in Kissimmee. So we'd have to listen to that again to get that locked down. But I think that that's of interest as to why there's two agencies that were or are still involved in it. And then just regards specific to the case, when they say he returned home, I think we all need to question, what does that mean? Okay, so where did this occur initially? And why would he have driven with Madeleine in the car back to the location? That's just something that we need to kind of like filter out and really figure out why.
Yeah. What do we think about, obviously, at some point, I personally think Stefan Stearns, he's the one responsible for Madeleine not being alive. But when did it happen? What do you think? I think it happened that night after the birthday party. The feeling I get, and it is purely a feeling, I think he took her home, he tried it on with her, and for maybe the first time ever, because she was 13, she had a brilliant time at her birthday party. Maybe she got a boy she's interested in at school, because her mother did say that, didn't she, during that interview, that, there was a boy she was interested in at school. And I think for the first time, she refused him, and I think he couldn't cope with it, and I think he went ballistic. That's what I think happened. Now, as far as a mother's concerned, he's probably come out with some cock and bull story for a mum. But I think she did know something. What she knew, I don't know, but she knew something. But personally, I don't think she was involved in the actual event itself, but the covering up, yeah. Let me know what you think in comments.
Would someone do that? And then again, the words picked up. When Jen says he picked her up, that means that he wasn't staying in that home either that night or they had broken up and just back and forth. So maybe he was staying at a different location and then came to the home. That's very confusing to me. I still haven't figured out what that all means with regards to why Stefan would have had to pick her up as opposed to just wake up in the morning and take her to school, right? Mm-hmm. Or why he would have been driving with her and then returned home after the tag reader found his vehicle near the school. I think that was near, around 8 a.m. Mm-hmm. The dumpster, which is like 7:35 a.m. With the laptop in the backpack, and then the 8:19 area with the tag reader. So that's very confusing. But again, it could be intentionally confusing because it's not made for our consumption. It's made to make the suspects or the people of interest make a move. Just in regards to their relationships, it seems like they both have issues. So if you think about Stefan, his self-esteem is probably not the best based on the description that we read in the affidavit regarding his man parts. Okay, so he probably has had difficulty in relationships, and he found this relationship and was able to hold it from what they say is like 7 years because he found someone that was sort of like him in the sense that her self-esteem wasn't so good based on her medications potentially, and other things in her life. So it's like two people that were not confident in themselves and, didn't have high self-esteem. They both kind of found each other, and that's potentially why things lasted as long as they did. Very last thing is the birthday party. Why was it planned? Okay, so her birthday was the 22nd. They did the birthday on the 25th on Sunday. You know what your work schedule is, and your other the listeners have mentioned it before. Why would you plan it to be on a day that you're working? And even if you had to work, like you said earlier, you call in sick. So those are my last final thoughts. And then she said, I couldn't make it. I think as a parent, you would say, I couldn't be there, because we always want to be there for our family, not make it, right? I couldn't make it to my doctor's appointment, but I couldn't be there for my child. So that's all I got.
Now, do you think that this child ring that they busted is connected with Stephen Stearns? Do you think it's
so? That's.
See, this is the other thing, isn't it, that's going on. A couple of you have referred to it. I've sort of tried to keep away from it, only because I don't know enough about it. They reckon that, they've busted this paedophile ring. I'm not supposed to say that word, this P ring. Really, you do get picked up if you say these things, but they've busted this P ring, and is it connected? Is it connected? Is Stefan in some sort of ring? Is there more to it than just the private thing between him and Madeleine? If you were asking for my personal opinion, I would say no, I don't think there is a connection. I think that's just a coincidence. But, I'm quite open to being wrong. I'm quite often wrong. But I feel this was a personal thing between him and Madeleine. I feel like Madeleine was his girlfriend, because he's he's a man baby, isn't he? He might be nearly 40, but he's thinking in his head, he's like 18. He's thinking, I think he would have wanted to keep Madeleine to himself. In my personal opinion, that's what I think. So I don't believe in that. But let me know what you think. As you know, we all have our thoughts on this channel. It doesn't matter what you think as long as you're respectful with it.
Yeah, that's the James and Henry Cox case that has, they call him Santa Guy. I see that it is close to the area, but again, it would be speculation to say it's related. But like your other listeners have said over the past few years, there's been a lot of this stuff going around. So it's potential, but I wouldn't say specifically that's related. Now, somebody is saying that house for James and Henry Cox, the one with the Santa, with the blue house in St. Cloud, it's sort of on the way from Stefan and Jen's home in the Venetian Bay and towards where the body was located. So that could, and again, we'd be speculating, but it could fill in the piece of why would Stefan have returned home? Is it possible, and again, just throwing it out there, is it possible that if it's related to this other case in St. Cloud, is it possible that he brought Madeleine to sort of visit at that other house?
Right.
For if it's connected. I don't want to go into further details, but if it's connected, is it possible that he brought Madeleine there for a visit? Okay. The other thing is, Sheriff Mina said, we believe Stefan moved the body in the early hours that morning. So that's another sort of clue that's like early hours. Okay. Is that 7:30 when we see when we have some of the video evidence? Or, could this have happened overnight, Sunday into Monday, and early hours means more like 2, 3, 4 in the morning? So again, that's not clear. And again, it may not be clear intentionally.
Yeah, I can get that.
Yeah.
They're not going to, show their hand. I know that. And
exactly.
I think they're going through, because I'm speculating in my head, and maybe you've heard me say this already, but I'm speculating that not only are they going through mom's phone records, checking CCTV footage with officers sitting around the desk probably right now, falling asleep, drinking coffee, looking to see if they see anything out of place. I think that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, I think he's right. I bet they are working right round the clock, going through in their shifts and everything, going through all the information. They've got a lot of information to go through. And, it is frustrating that nobody has been charged with Maddie's murder yet, but they want to get everything right. They don't have to worry about him. They've got him on another charge anyway, so they can relax about him. And as far as Madeleine's mum's concerned, I do not think she's a danger to anyone else. Does she have other children at home? I'm not really quite sure if she has other children. If anybody knows, let me know, please.
Behind the scenes, as they try to uncover if either mom or they probably maybe already know she was involved, or they're trying to find out if she was involved. And that's why there's no charges day 9. As a Florida officer, what are your what's your thought process and retired, right? Are you retired?
Yeah. I've been at 8 years now.
Okay, so you've been out 8 years now. So as a former Florida officer, and what do you think about that being 9 days with no arrest, not even towards Stephen Stearns? What are your thoughts processing on that? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Drop it to me. Let me hear it.
Again, we only know what they want us to know. Okay, even the word leaked, these documents get leaked, these photos get leaked. We only know what they want us to know. Think about it. If you are working a case like this, you are going to have the very specific officers that are authorized to do certain things, and the information is only going to go through certain doors. So if a door opens, who opened the door, right?
Right.
So we only go through the doors that are allowed to be open for us. So don't know exactly what that would mean in this case, but I would say, based on my training and experience, I would say that they know everything already, but they're not going to let us know, because whether Jen is already in custody or potentially in custody, they want to release and have her hear things that next. And if she has an attorney or whatever, that's, she's still going to hear the news. So until they are ready to have someone make another move, they may not make a move for a little bit. And that's what the autopsy reports, that may be ready and available, but just not released yet. And for whatever reasons that they have, because of suspects, people of interest, whether it does get bigger into the rings, we don't know. That's speculation. However, again, I guess the biggest point of this whole conversation could be we're only going to know, and we only know whatever they want us to know. So when Sheriff Mina went out and everything he has said,
this is just true all the time. All the cases that we look at, the police will tell us it's not only what they want us to know, it's what they can let us know without prejudicing their trial. They've got a trial coming up one way or another, whether it's just of Stefan or whether it's Stefan and Jennifer. There's a trial coming up, so they'll let us know what they can let us know. What they want to let us know. I mean, they want to let us know everything probably, but they can't. And it's not only like that in this case, but also in the Samantha Murphy case. So I think we have to remember that the police I don't think the police are sort of deliberately thinking, right, we're going to keep all this information back because we hate people. I think they're thinking we're going to keep this information back because we're building a case.
Was intentional and for a purpose. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes plenty of sense. Makes plenty of sense. Yeah. Logical for me. Like when just from picking up and watching investigation shows since I was young, I can picture what's going on behind the scenes right now. Them waiting for certain records to come through to connect certain dots, and some people don't understand that you can't just unfold it all overnight. In some cases, you'll see stuff happen so fast, but then some cases like this, They may
Right.
be waiting for phone records from a company like AT&T. They subpoenaed and it whatever it may be. There's a lot of.
Yeah, I'm sat here. You can't see me, but I'm sat here nodding my head at what T. Rev is saying. You know, and it is nice to hear him. It's nice to hear the insight from the officer, and he's good what he's saying. It's you know, the police want to tell us. They're not sat there thinking, we don't want to tell people things. They want to, but they just always can't. It can't always. And what he says is correct. You know, sometimes it is a straightforward case. We have seen some straightforward cases, which I think what they are, but I think we have. You know, where evidence is straightforward, but sometimes it's not straightforward. You know, they have to get their ducks in a row, as I said to my chatter. You know, they have to do that, because if they don't, it can all go wrong at the trial. Because as soon as the trial comes up, anything that's been done wrong, said wrong, you know, been on social media, been here, been there, anything that the defense lawyer can bring up at the trial, they will.
Stuff going on behind the scenes. You can bet your ass that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and don't forget, you know, he tried to get rid of evidence with the factory reset and all that kind of stuff. Don't forget, the vehicles will have their own navigation systems that will have said where these cars were. So whether the mother was involved with that white car, they'll be able to know where that car was. They'll be able to know where Stefan's car was.
Oh shit! I just thought.
Yeah, don't forget. And go ahead.
No, I just thought of something. He threw away her laptop, right?
Well, it was in the dumpster with the backpack. Yeah.
Why? Why get rid of her laptop? What's on that laptop?
Yeah, because. Well, I don't think he would have used her school laptop for that. That's just my gut instinct.
I mean, like, I wonder if he wrote something in there, or you know what I mean? Like, what's he discarding it for? What are we discarding the book? But you could have just left the book bag at home, right?
Well, no. My question more would be, why didn't he just leave the book bag and the laptop with her in the woods? Like, that would have made more sense. Because if someone did kidnap.
Yeah, he's tried to get rid of the laptop because maybe there's emails on there from him, or maybe he just doesn't even know what's on the laptop, and there might be some kissy messages from him. I doubt very much if on her laptop there'll be any, sex images, but there may be like little messages on her Facebook or on her, I don't know, Snapchat or whatever, like telling her sort of romantic things. That's why he's probably got rid of the laptop. Or is he trying to make out, that she's run off somewhere? That's a possibility. But no, I don't think so. I think he's tried to get rid of her laptop because there'll be emails, messages or whatever from him to her, not sex things, I don't think, unless he sent her, sometimes a photo of himself, thinking that she'd quite enjoy seeing it. But it's possible. But personally, I think he's got rid of her laptop because there'll be intimate messages from him to her, loving messages. He's thought he's had a girlfriend for 2 years in her. That's why I do feel that if he's, unalived her, it will be through jealousy or through she's refusing him or whatever. I don't believe he will have given that up. He spent 2 years having her there, doing whatever he wants to her. He's not going to give that up without a reason. He's enjoyed her. He's not going to suddenly, I don't want this anymore. He wanted it, but there's a reason why he's sort of disposed of her.
Her or do something else, wouldn't that have been connected to her if she walked away to school and got kidnapped? So him discarding that separately, my belief would be that he thought there could be a GPS or tracking in the laptop. So he didn't want that showing where he was, driving that day.
Mm-hmm.
So does that make sense to you? Like, why would you, if a kid gets kidnapped going to school, they would have had their backpack on. So why don't they have the backpack on now, right?
Yes, sir.
Why would he separate the laptop and backpack from her?
That's true too.
Unless, unless, obviously he's not the smartest guy in the world, but I think it could have been the laptop reason is he thought that it could have had tracking in it, and that could have tracked him. And the last thing I'll say is, what about the tip, allegedly? Again, we only know what we're told, and we're told for a reason. Why are we being told that there was a tip that someone saw him changing his tire? I think that there's more to that as well. And trying to think through that, okay, just do like a mental exercise. What are the possibilities? What does that mean? So he was on the side of the road changing his tire. Someone drove by, okay, didn't think anything of it at the time. And then the press conference comes out, says we found the body, and then someone calls in the tip. Or is it possible that even someone stopped, on the side of the road and said, "Hey, buddy, you okay? You need help?" Actually could have had a verbal conversation with him. Okay. So again, just thinking through that. But to me, that's a piece that's still sort of not filled in, although you'll see the surveillance video does have I guess we call it the donut or the spare tire on the car. So some people have speculated maybe he pretended or said, "Oh yeah, I stopped by this area because I had to change my tire." But to me, based on the video evidence, it looks like he actually did get a flat tire and actually did have to do that. Now, whether that happened because, he did something, went off road somewhere, or did that, backed into the woods and ran over something. Again, those are pieces that we don't know, but we know what we know because we're supposed to know. You get it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We know what we know because
Yeah,
we're supposed to know, and we don't know the other shit because we're not supposed to know it.
Exactly, because we're not supposed to know yet, but you can end it with, but they know.
But they know.
They know.
Yeah, they know.
Right?
They know they're connecting those dots. And they're probably, I don't know, somebody said they're waiting on a grand jury indictment for Stephen Stearns. But I don't know.
Well, and that would be for what was found in the cell phone data, because that's the original arrest affidavit. Now they're going to do enhanced charges or other charges based on whatever the other part of the investigation, pans out to be. Do you have any questions, or can you think of any other questions that your audience, your listeners, could be thinking themselves that maybe I could help answer at all?
I think you covered all bases.
Yeah. Okay. I was taking notes.
Oh, this guy is very helpful, isn't he? Very helpful. He wants to talk. Do you think? Is he a retired policeman? Did he say he was a retired policeman, or is he a current policeman? I don't know. But he's been very helpful. He's given a good insight. Thing is, it's always good to get an insight from people that are currently or not long ago involved, because sometimes you get insights from people from 20 years ago. I don't think that's helpful. Personally, I don't think that's helpful, because the world has moved on, as we know. The world moves on, so quick. I only spent 3 hours without the internet, and I felt like the world had moved on so quick. You go on the news and you think, oh my God, the world changes so quickly these days. So it's interesting to hear from someone who's got a relevant insight, not an insight from 20 years ago, but a relevance from now. It's been a very interesting interview. And I think T-Rev, he's very good the way he deals with the way he's been dealing with him.
And I'm like, this is all the stuff that I was kind of wondering when I was listening.
Let's touch up on this as I see some new people coming in again. Do you want to explain what this red evidence tape is here on Jen Soto's car for the people that are just coming in?
Right.
What is this red tape as an officer? Let them know.
Okay, so that's evidence tape. So you would put that across. You see how it's across the door jamb, right? So it would show if someone were to break the seal. So if someone were to open that car, you would see that the evidence tape was broken, and you would know that the car was entered or contaminated. So again, this is all new stuff that we just found out today. And again, this is even if it's real and accurate. We're just going based on an email and photos that people are saying. So
Absolutely.
I'm just commenting. Yeah, Rev and I are just we're just speaking about what we're being shown. We have no independent knowledge to this.
Absolutely.
So, right. But based on what we're being shown and told, it's likely that this is Jen Soto's white 4-door vehicle. I can't tell what year, make, and model of it from those photos. You can almost zoom in and get that tag number. But what you can do, as I noticed in your photo, is you can look at the numericals on the house. I couldn't read it 100%. Maybe you can zoom in on it, but then that would help us tell us what house that's located in and if that is her sister's. But based on what we know or what we believe right now, based on, again, speculation of what this is, it appears to be Jen Soto's 4-door white vehicle parked at where is said to be her sister's house and with the evidence tape across the door jamb. Now, again, I can't see if that seal is broken, but I suspect, just based on what we're being told, is that she was given permission to re-enter that car. So that vehicle was searched, evidence was collected, photos were taken, whatever they were looking for regarding that vehicle, either in regards to Madeleine or other issues, that vehicle was seized, it was went through, and then it was returned to the registered owner. And the reason why the tape's still on there is because it's very, very firm, sticky tape that you can't just peel off. I don't know if anyone's ever gotten like a tow sticker on their car if you park 2 days or more somewhere. A lot of times the police or sheriffs will come by and they'll put a sticker on your car like abandoned vehicle. If you don't move it within 24 or 48 hours, we're going to tow it. Those stickers are like almost permanent. So the reason why you're still seeing it, again, speculation, the reason why you're still seeing it is it was released to her, so she was able to open the doors, but you can't just pull off that tape. You'd have to literally get like a razor blade and scratch it off, and then you'd be scratching your paint. So does that seem...
Right, I'm going to fast forward a little bit because I think he's repeated now what he's said about the car. Let's go forward a little bit.
Was another hint that we should have been thinking of her that day, and I forget which day, he did that. Be a lie. It's a crime. If you were to lie,
Right, I'm going to stop that now. I mean, I've shown you sort of the video, the YouTube channel. Go over there if you want to watch the end of it, but really it more or less repeats itself now towards the end. So there you go. That's, we don't know any more really about, nobody's been charged still with Madeleine's murder. That's, oh God, I'm just laughing at myself now. I'm looking at the camera, but of course you can't see me in the camera. Good job you can't see me in the camera, because if you could see me, believe me, you would never come back to my channel again. Talk about being dragged through a hedge backwards. But what I want to do now is to turn our attention to the case of Samantha Murphy. Now, tomorrow, we're going to look at, there was a couple of things that came up there that I didn't know about. I'm going to look at the, particularly the interview with the grandmother of Madeleine, who speaks in Spanish. Of course, they are a Spanish family or a Spanish-speaking family, just their names tell you that. So we're going to look at that tomorrow, but not now. I'm going to start looking at something about Samantha now. Right. So we're going to look at or listen to a podcast and look at it actually, because it's a podcast, but there is a video as well. And we're going to look at why the alleged killer, because we do have to remember that Patrick Stevenson, although it seems likely that he is the killer of Samantha Murphy, he's still the alleged killer. He still has not said where her body is. So I've got my candle going here. I was just going to hold it up to the camera, but of course I'm not on the camera, so you won't be able to see it. But he still has not said where she is. And this is what, even more, I cannot forgive him for. Because whatever he did, presumably he did in a moment of, I don't know, drunkenness, madness, drugged up, whatever. But what he's doing now, by keeping her body from her family, is planned, is continuing to offend. He offended with whatever he did to Samantha, but now he's continuing to offend because he's still not giving the family the little bit of peace, the little bit of closure that he can give them. He's still not giving it to them. So for that reason, and just that reason, you just cannot forgive him, or even, feel any sympathy towards him. I feel sympathy towards his family, any of his family who are not involved. I do feel sympathy towards, but to this twunk, I feel no sympathy until he actually reveals what he has done with Samantha's body. But let's have a listen to this podcast, which basically, it's just because it's something different probably you haven't heard about, where these podcasters are just saying why initially he could not be named. So people are saying they can't hear it. You should be able to hear it because yeah, you should be able to hear it. Why can't you hear it? So you can see it. Hang on, let me try again.
And then last week, Victorian Police made this announcement.
Detectives from the Missing Persons Squad yesterday morning at 6 a.m. arrested a 22-year-old Scottsburn man. They arrested him at his home address and took him into custody. The man was interviewed over a number of hours, a number of search.
No, you should be able to hear it. There is no reason why you can't hear it. All right, you can hear it now. Good. Okay.
Warrants have been executed. As a result of those investigations, he has today been charged with the murder of Samantha. We will be alleging that murder occurred at Mount Clare on the day she disappeared.
So police announced that a 22-year-old man had been arrested for the murder of Samantha Murphy.
And when police made that announcement, they didn't tell us who they had actually charged, which is quite rare, right?
Yeah, and that is a suppression order.
Okay, and so there was lots of discussion online about why the system allows things like this to happen, suppression orders, where the identity of someone accused of a crime like murder can actually be protected. I do think that this is an interesting feature of our legal system and something that obviously interacts with media.
Yeah.
Can you just explain it?
Yeah, so there's been quite a few cases where suppression orders have been really controversial in Australia. So I think the first thing to say is you need to understand that Australia's judicial system is based on the principle of open justice.
What's that?
And that basically means court proceedings are normally available for the public to see. I used to go to court for a law assignment while I was studying at university. You can walk in.
And we've watched cases on YouTube. They are fairly
Now, this is interesting for me because, it's only recently in the UK that trials are public, aren't they? That it's a recent thing in the UK. In America, a lot of trials are public. I didn't realise that in Australia, trials are public. In Spain, trials are not public, as far as I know. I've never seen a Spanish trial. But I'm going to look out for it a lot more because this is intriguing. And so what they're saying here is that in Australia, generally, trials are public.
Accessible.
Yeah, and the whole idea behind that is the public should know what's going on in the court system. But suppression orders, which are also sometimes called gag orders, are introduced in special circumstances if there is a need to actually restrict what is made public.
So we have an open court justice system with this basic understanding that what happens in courts should be public. But then suppression orders, on the flip side, can force people to keep things a secret if required.
Yeah.
Why would there be a need to keep some things private, like the name of an alleged murderer?
So the judge could have a range of reasons why they think the name needs to be sealed from the public. And it can be for things like the names of alleged victims and perpetrators in particularly sensitive cases, locations of where people live. It could be any detail really of a case.
So it's not always the name that we're talking about
No.
here of, for example, the alleged perpetrator.
It often is. I mean, in reality, it often is the name, but it can also include any other identifying factors. I've seen some cases where suppression orders have been placed upon the name of a school, of a family member, of somebody involved. And more specifically, there could be instances where alleged victims of crime want to stop their name from being revealed. And that's because of the undeniable stress of being in the public eye.
Okay.
The judge might also decide that an alleged offender's safety is at risk, including for mental health reasons. It could also be deemed necessary in high-profile cases. So when there's heaps of media attention around a certain trial, if there's a risk that a person's right to a fair trial could actually be undermined by the publishing of details by the media.
But what happens if the media doesn't abide by that? I mean, like it's this
Yeah.
rule that we all know as journalists that we have to abide by. Well, what happens if you don't?
Well, there's big fines that publishers might have to pay. You could be fined more than $500,000. Those fines are decided state by state. So there's no consistent rule across the country, but it's a lot of money.
Whenever I think about suppression orders, the case that I often come back to is of Cardinal George Pell, because there was a suppression order that forbid the media from saying his name in a case several years ago. And then media got in trouble.
Which is the really interesting bit.
Yeah, when some did use his name.
Exactly. And those two factors there, the fact that such a high profile individual had their name suppressed for so long, but also then that media got in trouble for trying to see how far they could push it, makes this a really interesting example. So for those who don't remember, in 2018, a judge made a controversial decision to stop media publishing any details of the trial of George Pell. So kind of a blanket ban, who was at that time Australia's most high profile Catholic figure. And he was accused of sexually abusing two boys. Now, many media outlets tried really creative ways of getting around the suppression order. They did things like identified him as the most high-profile Catholic figure. They would, allude to things that he'd done in the past. And ultimately, they got in a lot of trouble for it. And 14 Australian publications collectively paid more than $1 million for their reporting on the case. Now, Pell was found guilty in that case, but the verdict was then overturned on appeal 2 years later.
And that was obviously a massive moment.
Huge moment.
But I want to go back to right now where there was a suppression order in the case of the alleged murder of Samantha Murphy.
Yeah.
Why was there this suppression order in this case? We're not talking about someone as high profile
No.
as George Pell.
It's slightly different, yeah. So when this man was charged, his lawyers successfully sought a suppression order. So they applied to the court to have his name suppressed, due to concerns for the alleged perpetrator's mental health and the risk of limiting the fairness of the trial. To tease out that fairness of the trial a bit more, that basically means that if it's a jury trial, they can't run the risk that somebody has read media reports with that person's name if the court deems that could put at risk the idea of having a fair jury. And all of that meant that the media couldn't actually publish his name, including us.
And it meant that when we did publish.
Yeah, this is very interesting because for that, it was very brief when Patrick Stevenson's name was not allowed to be spoken, wasn't it? And I could speak it because it was only not allowed to be spoken in Australia. But I could speak it here in Spain. So outside Australia, you could speak it and people were speaking it. But there in Australia, and that must be quite difficult for the mainstream media. And what she goes on to say here is, of course, because of that, they couldn't even allow comments in their videos. So if they did a podcast or a YouTube video like they're doing now, they had to disable comments because they didn't, because if chatters or, viewers came on and made comments and mentioned his name, which of course they did, then the actual channel, the mainstream media channel, could be fined for allowing those comments, because although it wasn't them that were actually giving his name, people would go on there and give his name, and it could reflect on them. So what they would do basically is disable comments, which makes a lot of sense to me now, because there's a few channels that I've been on, or mainstream media channels, and I've thought, why have they disabled comments? Sometimes Sky News does it, and it always looks like they're hiding the truth. But now I understand why they're doing it, because then they can be sued for allowing a name or a comment to be made.
Stories around this, we turned off the comments because people would have felt inclined to comment his name, and then all of a sudden you end up in a situation where the media is inadvertently still publishing his name.
Exactly. But then, and this is very common when suppression orders are placed in high-profile cases, a group of media outlets made a legal argument against the order. And
We're saying they should be allowed to publish his name.
Exactly. And the point they were arguing to the court was that their reporting was not going to influence the trial. Rather, they just wanted to tell their readers or viewers exactly what was happening.
Mm-hmm. And so what happened?
So on Friday last week, lawyers for the alleged murderer actually dropped the suppression order request themselves, meaning media could reveal that the man accused of murder is 22-year-old Victorian man Patrick Oren Stevenson. And there's been a lot of commentary about how media are reporting this next part of information, but a lot of media reports follow up by saying that he's the son of former AFL player Oren Stevenson.
And so what do we know about the alleged perpetrator, other than, I guess, what his dad did for a job?
Yeah, and that's kind of almost as much as we do know. We don't know a lot about this man. We do know that he's from the Ballarat area. We don't know how he was connected to Samantha Murphy. Police have said, though, that they believe this was, quote, a deliberate attack.
You said there that his legal team actually dropped the case for a suppression order.
Yeah, his legal team withdrew the request.
Why would they do that?
So his lawyers spoke in court on Friday, and according to the ABC, one of his lawyers said the current media storm has now become inclusive of the...
Yeah, this has been a big thing, isn't it? It was actually his own, counsel, if you like, that eventually dropped the suspension order. So... why did they do that? Did they do it? I just feel that they sort of did it because then later on, when it comes to court, they can turn around and say, oh, well, everybody knew his name and he's not going to get a fair trial, etc., etc. Or was he trying to protect somebody else? That this is what is said, that he was trying to protect, because there was so much speculation pointed towards his family and friends, etc., that he agreed to drop this suppression order just so that it would stop the speculation on everybody else. The only thing I can think about this twonk now is tell someone where Samantha is. Where is her body? You know what? I couldn't give a shit about anything else. I could not give a toss. all that matters now is he should be saying where she is, bring her home. All these bloody crap about his defence lawyer and this, that and the other, I don't care. I don't care. He's done what he's done. He can't bring it back, but he can do something honourable. He can do one thing honourable, which is say where Samantha is and bring her back to her family. And, you know, apart from that, I mean, I feel for his family. I do feel for them if they're not involved. Of course I do. But at the end of the day, if that was my son, I would be there shouting down his ear, you have got to say where this woman is, because she's got 3 children and a husband waiting for her to be brought home so they can actually bury her. You know, not for any good reason, but because at least they can bury her. And I would be there screaming down his ear if he was one of my. I honestly would. Are they really just trying to protect him from prison? Are they so obsessed with their son that their son is important, but Samantha's family are not important? What about her son? You know, she's got 2 daughters and a son, so what about her son? This is what drives me crazy. It's like, just, you know, I don't care if he was my son. I would be there saying, say where she is.
The family of the accused and the defense intention to assist, so their application to have that suppression order, has only become far more destructive as a mechanism to the client.
Right, because everyone was focusing on that suppression order and who it was about.
It became a bit of a kind of guessing game of who this person was. And the lawyer also kind of criticized how much attention, as you said, the suppression order itself was receiving. Stevenson has also not entered a plea deal, meaning we don't know if he will plead guilty or not guilty. So basically, can't give you many answers, but this will be a developing story.
Sam, I think it's interesting to understand how suppression orders work, because it's something that we have to abide by in media. And, you know, I often see comments on other posts that we do asking why, for example, we've turned off comments or asking why we've made a certain decision not to name an alleged perpetrator. So I think this, you know, idea of media literacy is really important and is something that we will continue to try and do here at the Daily Oz. Thanks for joining us on today's podcast. If you learnt something, let us know. You can leave a comment on Spotify. If you head to today's episode, there's a little question box there. Let us know what you think. Otherwise.
Okay, so let me just have a little look. You know, maybe he has come out with what he did with Samantha's body, but I doubt it very much, to be honest. It feels like he's just too selfish. Yeah, all that's really on there is a schoolmate of his said that he reminded him of Elon Musk. There's been a run in honour of Samantha Murphy, but no sign of her body being found, is there? So, okay, right, well, I hope you found the video interesting tonight. We've spoke a lot about Madeleine, and it's given me some things to say as well to look for tomorrow, to have a look about the interview with Madeleine's grandma, you know, and we've looked at the GoFundMe and that's paused, and we've looked at a lot of things tonight. I'm tired now, as you can see. I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning. Anyway, I'll get my 4 hours or my 5 hours or my 6 hours sleep, whatever, and I'll see you tomorrow at some point. And thank you so much for being here with me, for watching, for giving me, hopefully, hitting the like button or the not like button, whichever way you feel. That's okay. It's all interaction. And thank you so much for all your chatting. And yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at, I always end up looking at the chat at this time and reading through the chat, and then I get distracted. But anyway, I'm going. So remember to live and love carefully, wisely, look after you. Do something for you. Have a pedicure, have a manicure, have a massage, you know, go to a spa, treat yourself to something. And I'll see you very soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Thank you so much. Bye.